Hey guys, welcome to day 2 of the challenge. I really loved seeing all of your tweets and comments and questions yesterday about the first challenge being the daily intake of water. So hopefully everybody had a good day and was feeling really refreshed and hydrated and glowing after our first challenge. So make sure you carry that through now for the next 30 days. With the most important thing being to start off every morning with a glass of lemon water. I think you're really going to notice a difference when you start doing that. So for today's challenge, we're going to talk about whole foods and not just the grocery store that takes your whole paycheck. What I asked you guys to do on Facebook this morning, not sure if you had a chance to or not yet, but I wanted you to take a peek in your cupboards and pull out a couple of boxed processed foods and take a look at the ingredients on the back. What I said on Facebook was your ingredients list shouldn't be longer than the paragraph I had just written. And you really want to think about the food that you're eating. If you can't pronounce something on the ingredients list, there's a good chance that your body isn't going to know what to do with it. So the first part of today's challenge is really just becoming aware of what you're eating and really thinking about everything you're eating as doing something for you. So if you aren't sure what a certain food is doing for you, your body doesn't know what to do with it. So I want you to really think about food as nourishment and energy and as what's sustaining you. A good rule of thumb is you should never feel tired after a meal. Eating a meal, you should feel more energized than when you first sat down to eat it because it should be working for you and not against you. When you eat a really heavy meal full of processed ingredients, your body's working overtime to break down all of that food, which leaves you feeling really tired and sluggish. With that being said, the second part of our challenge is going to be about balancing out your meals. I want you for the next 30 days to be eating 3 meals a day with 2 snacks. For some of you, you might have 3 snacks, and your snacks are basically going to fall in between your meals so that you're actually eating every 3 hours. There's a lot of research behind this, but basically it boils down to keeping your blood sugar stable all day long and having a constant supply of energy to your body. So you're not hitting those highs and lows, you're not restricting, but you're feeling that you can take on the day and that you're feeling really energetic and great. And what I mean by a balanced meal is I want you to have carbohydrates, protein, and fat at every meal. When you're focusing on eating whole foods, I think this comes a little bit easier because you're not, reading the ingredients on a box and wondering what the heck's in it, but you're actually planning your meals and you're thinking about satisfying all of those food groups and hitting all of those macronutrients. The great thing about Daily Plate, so as I've asked you, I want you to log your food for the next 30 days. Daily Plate will then take all of your nutrition for the day and it'll spit out exactly what you're eating in carbs, proteins, and fats. It also gives you, I believe, fiber and obviously calorie count. And I think there's even an option for it to spit it out into vitamins and minerals if you're curious about that. But it's a really great learning tool. So I really want you guys to get in the habit this month. If you're not going to do it now, you're never going to do it. So really track your food, figure out what you're eating, how you're feeling when you eat it. Because again, this is all about building awareness so that you can go into this year with a clean slate and really just thinking about how food is a drug. It definitely is. It's a big reason and why you're sometimes not feeling that great. I mean, you really need to think about when you're eating, why you're eating it. There's a lot of emotional attachments to food. I could go on and on about this subject, but at the end of the day, make sure everything you're putting in your mouth is doing something for you and that it's not an empty calorie. So as you're focusing on eating whole foods, there's a lot of talk out there about organic or buying local. My feelings on that is I would actually rather support local than buying an organic apple from the US because I live in Canada or wherever you live, just eating close to home. So support your local markets when you're thinking about your produce. I'm going to give you a link on the blog and on Facebook for a really great produce wash you can make at home with a few simple ingredients. So when I don't buy organic produce, I just make sure that I clean it really well to get rid of all that crud and crap and chemicals and stuff that they bog it down with. The second thing is, as you guys may know through my blog, I am vegan. My family is vegan. That's just how we eat. We feel great on this diet. I'm going to go into a little more on that further on in our challenge in a couple weeks. But, I have nothing against eating meat as long as you're eating the proper kind. So if you enjoy beef, you want to make sure that it's grass-fed beef. If you love chicken, make sure it's organic and free range. Just really do your homework and make sure you're buying it from somebody you trust, because there's a lot of garbage in meat and in dairy, and you really need to educate yourself. So I'm just hoping that videos like this and our challenges are one more thing you can add to your toolkit as you try to become more knowledgeable in all there is out there, because there are a lot of corporations making a lot of money off of our assumed ignorance, and the time is now to become educated and understand what we're putting in our mouths and where it's come from, and let's stop feeding the pockets of these people that are making money off of all of our unhealthiness. You know, you're voting with your dollars, so really think about where you're spending your money. When you go shopping, the last part of this challenge is I want you to really keep just to the perimeter. You may have heard this tip before, but it really works. The only time I really venture into the aisles of the grocery store are if I need something for baking, or if I'm buying my oats, or rice, quinoa, grains, things like that. I am a big believer in buying frozen fruits and vegetables because we can't do it all. But really stick to that perimeter. You can do 99% of your shopping in that perimeter around the aisles. So just think about getting all of your whole foods that way. What else? I'm going to put a list of resources up on the blog and on Facebook of some books you might be interested in reading. A really great start is a book by Michael Pollan called Food Rules. He's got a lot of really quick quotes in there of things to think about as you're venturing into this new arena of health this year. A couple other great books that I love, the Eat Clean series. I'm sure you've heard of Tosca Reno, The Eat Clean Queen. This is actually one of the very first books I read a long time ago, and I have all the books in her series, so I highly recommend you check out these books. They've got a lot of great recipes. Another great book is The Kind Diet. Alicia Silverstone of Clueless wrote this, and she did a great job. It's got a lot of really great vegan recipes in it, but even if you're not vegan, there's a lot in here to learn just about the practices that go into our food and what we're eating. A great movie to check out, I'm sure you've heard of it before, is Food Inc. And it's really educational, again, for understanding where our food's coming from. And again, it's just all about getting as much knowledge as you can to make the proper decisions. But lastly, I'm going to put another link up on the blog about the Dirty Dozen. I'm not sure if you can see this list here. So the Dirty Dozen is basically a list of fruits and vegetables that you always want to make sure you're buying organic. Top of the list would be apples and celery. So when I'm buying produce, I always make sure I can get organic in those things because they tend to have the most chemicals on them. And then there's also a list of things you don't need to worry about. So typically things with a tough skin, such as bananas, pineapples, cantaloupes, those things you don't really always have to buy organic because they've got a thick skin, so they can kind of take the beating that they get. So that's it for today's challenge. This is a big one, and that's the reason I introduced it on day 2 right after water, because over the next 30 days, it's again being, really thinking about what you're eating and preparing for it. Next Sunday, I'm going to give you some tips on meal planning, but I want you to spend this week just really looking at your ingredients and practicing adding in lots of whole foods into your diet. Okay, so I'll see you back tomorrow for a really nice yoga workout to start off your week. Have a good day, guys.